The grand hall of the Valorian palace stretched higher than any human building. Crystal columns rose toward a ceiling painted with ancient battle scenes. Hundreds of alien diplomats filled the space, their voices creating a strange music of clicks, hums, and growls. Marcus Chen stood near a refreshment table, feeling incredibly small. At 5 feet 9 inches, he was average height for a human. Here, surrounded by towering aliens, he felt like a child at an adult gathering. The Valorians were the most impressive. They stood 8 feet tall on average, with scaled skin that shimmered in shades of deep purple and silver. Their eyes were sharp and intelligent, missing nothing. They moved with the grace of natural predators, and everyone in the galaxy knew they were warriors first, diplomats second. Ambassador Chen, a voice rumbled above him. Marcus looked up and up at Queen Zareth herself. She wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like starlight. Her scales were the deepest purple he had ever seen, almost black in the shadows. A crown of polished metal sat on her head, sharp and dangerous looking. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, bowing respectfully. "Thank you for hosting this summit." "Of course," Zareth said. Her voice was deep and powerful. "Humanity is newly arrived to galactic civilization. We must see if you are worth knowing." There was no warmth in her words. Marcus kept his diplomatic smile in place. The evening continued with formal presentations. Each species spoke about their contributions to the galactic community. The Valorians talked of military protection. The Centauri spoke of trade networks. The silicon-based Cristans discussed scientific advancement. When Marcus's turn came, he spoke honestly. "Humanity offers adaptability. We learn quickly. We solve problems in new ways. We may be young to the stars, but we are eager to contribute." Some aliens nodded politely, others looked bored. Queen Zareth's expression never changed. Later, during the formal dinner, Marcus found himself seated near several high-ranking diplomats. The food was strange, but edible. He had learned to eat almost anything during his diplomatic training. "So, Ambassador Chen," said a blue-skinned Aquarian diplomat, his voice bubbling with amusement, "humanity has been in space for only 50 years. Tell me, do your people have bonding customs? Marriage, as you call it?" "We do," Marcus replied carefully, sensing a trap. "Fascinating," the Aquarian continued. "And I hear humans can be quite passionate in choosing partners. No requirements of strength or status? We value many things in partners," Marcus said. "Kindness, intelligence, humor, shared values." Queen Zareth, who had been silent, suddenly laughed. It was not a kind sound. "How charmingly primitive," she said. "Valorians choose mates through trials of strength and honor. Only the worthy may bond with warriors. Different cultures, different customs," Marcus said evenly. The Aquarian diplomat, enjoying the tension, pressed further. "But surely, Your Majesty, in this new age of galactic cooperation, we might see bonding between species, perhaps even a Valorian and a human?" The table fell silent. Several aliens looked shocked at the suggestion. Zareth's laugh was louder this time, sharp and mocking. "A Valorian with a human? Impossible. Look at them. They are tiny, weak creatures. They have no armor, no natural weapons, no warrior culture. What Valorian would ever consider such a thing?" She looked directly at Marcus. "No offense intended, Ambassador." "None taken, Your Majesty," Marcus lied. His face burned with embarrassment. But he kept his voice steady. "We humans know we are not warriors like your people. We survive in other ways. By hiding? By running?" Zareth's tone was dismissive. "Yes, I have read the reports. Humanity has fought no great wars in space. You have made no conquests. You simply exist." Marcus felt anger rising but pushed it down. "We have fought wars, Your Majesty. Terrible ones. On our own world. We learned from them. We chose a different path. A weaker path," Zareth said. The dinner continued awkwardly after that. Marcus spoke little, answering questions politely but without enthusiasm. He noticed that some aliens seemed sympathetic, while others clearly agreed with Zareth's assessment of humanity. Hours later, as the formal dinner ended, Marcus walked through the palace gardens. He needed air and space to calm his frustration. The gardens were beautiful, filled with plants from dozens of worlds, all carefully maintained. Running away, Ambassador? Marcus turned to find Queen Zareth standing on a pathway behind him. She had removed her ceremonial armor and wore simpler clothing, though she still looked every bit the warrior queen. Taking a moment to think, Your Majesty, he said, about how I insulted your species? She walked closer, her footsteps silent despite her size. You are upset. Would you not be if someone mocked your entire people? If they spoke truth, I would accept it. Zareth said. Do you deny that humans are physically weak compared to most galactic species? No, Marcus admitted. We are weaker in body, but we are not weak in spirit or mind. Prove it. Marcus blinked. What? Prove to me that humans have strength worth respecting, Zareth said. I challenge you to the trial of minds, a Valorian test of mental endurance and strategic thinking. If you accept and succeed, I will apologize for my words. If you fail or refuse, you prove me correct. Marcus should have refused. He should have walked away. But pride and anger made him nod. I accept. The trial took place in a private room. It was not physical combat, but a complex strategy game involving moving pieces across a board while answering difficult questions about ethics, tactics, and leadership. Zareth clearly expected to win easily, but Marcus had grown up playing chess and studying human military history. He understood strategy in ways the Valorians, with their focus on direct combat, did not. He sacrificed pieces to gain position. He answered questions with unexpected perspectives. He used patience as a weapon. 3 hours later, Zareth stared at the board in disbelief. Marcus had won. You fought dishonorably, she said. But there was no anger in her voice. Only curiosity. I fought smart, Marcus corrected. That is the human way. For the first time, Zareth looked at him differently. Not as a weak creature, but as something unexpected. Something interesting. They talked for hours after that, sharing ceremonial wine and discussing their people's histories. Zareth spoke of Valorian warrior culture and the burden of leading an empire. Marcus talked about human persistence and creativity in the face of extinction-level challenges. The wine was strong. The conversation grew more personal. And when the night ended, both of them had done something neither had intended. Morning brought regret and awkwardness. They agreed never to speak of it. Marcus returned to Earth shortly after. Zareth resumed her duties as queen. Neither expected to see the other again. But 3 weeks later, in her private medical chamber, Queen Zareth received news that would change everything. Your Majesty, her physician said, his voice shaking. The scan results are impossible. You are carrying a child. Zareth stared at her physician in complete silence. The medical chamber suddenly felt too small, too warm. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. That is impossible, she said finally, her voice dangerously quiet. I have not completed any bonding rituals. I have not chosen a mate. Your equipment must be broken. The physician, an elderly Valorian named Dr. Kess, shook his head slowly. I ran the scan 3 times, Your Majesty. Then I brought in 2 other physicians to confirm. All results are identical. You are approximately 3 weeks into a pregnancy. Zareth stood abruptly, her chair scraping across the floor. Valorian biology does not work this way. Our reproduction requires genetic compatibility testing, ritual pheromone exchanges, and formal bonding ceremonies. These things take months. I am aware, Your Majesty, Dr. Kess said quietly. He had served the royal family for 40 years and was not easily frightened. Which is why this is so concerning. The child's genetic structure is unusual. Unusual how? Dr. Kess activated a holographic display. Complex genetic sequences rotated in the air between them. The child carries your genetic markers, but also markers from another species. A species with far simpler DNA structure than ours. Zareth's blood ran cold. There was only one species she had been close to in the past month, Only one possibility. Human, she whispered. Yes, Your Majesty. The genetic signatures match human DNA patterns. Zareth sat down heavily. Her mind raced through the implications. The night with Marcus Chen. The wine. The conversation that had turned into something more. She had thought nothing could come of it. Humans and Valorians were completely incompatible species. Apparently, she had been wrong. How is this possible? She demanded. Every biological study shows that our species cannot interbreed. We are too different. Dr. Kess adjusted the holographic display, zooming in on specific genetic sequences. That is what I thought as well. But look here, human DNA has an unusual characteristic. It is incredibly flexible. Where our DNA is complex and rigid, human DNA adapts and changes. It appears that human genetic material somehow unlocked compatibility with your genetic code. That makes no scientific sense, Zareth said. And yet, here we are, Dr. Kess replied. He looked at her with concern. Your Majesty, this situation is extremely delicate. If word spreads about this pregnancy before you are ready, there will be consequences. Zareth knew he was right. Valorian succession law was ancient and strict. Queens could only bear children with proven warriors of noble bloodlines. The child had to be pure Valorian to inherit the throne. A hybrid child was unthinkable. Who else knows? She asked. Only the two physicians who helped me confirm the diagnosis. Both have sworn absolute secrecy. But Your Majesty, you cannot hide a pregnancy forever. In 2 months, physical signs will become obvious. Zareth pressed her hands against her temples. A headache was forming behind her eyes. I need time to think. Say nothing to anyone. That is a royal command. Of course, Your Majesty. After Dr. Kess left, Zareth sat alone in the medical chamber for a long time. Her mind presented her with 2 clear options. End the pregnancy quietly, or face the political disaster that would come if she continued it. But there was a third factor she had not expected. As she sat there, hand unconsciously moving to her stomach, she felt something unexpected. A sense of protection. Of possibility. She had mocked Marcus Chen and his species. She had called humans weak and worthless. And yet, somehow, human biology had achieved what no other species in the galaxy could do: create a child with a Valorian queen without any of the normal requirements. That was not weakness. That was something else entirely. Over the next week, Zareth worked in secret. She ordered her intelligence division to compile every piece of information about human biology. The reports came back thick with data, and all of it pointed to the same conclusion. Humans were genetically flexible in ways the galaxy had never seen. They could survive in nearly any environment. Their bodies adapted to different gravity levels within generations. They could eat food from dozens of different worlds. Their immune systems learned and evolved constantly. Most species in the galaxy had evolved on stable worlds with little change. Humans had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them constantly. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, disease, predators. They had survived by being adaptable. That adaptability extended to their very genetic code. Interesting, Zareth murmured, reading through a report on human evolutionary history. Very interesting. But interesting biology did not solve her political problems. 3 of her advisors had already begun questioning why she seemed distracted lately. Her cousin, Lord Vex, had made pointed comments about the succession during a council meeting. Vex had always wanted the throne. He was a skilled warrior and popular among the military. If he learned about her pregnancy, he would challenge her right to rule immediately, and under Valorian law, he would have a legitimate claim. Zareth made a decision. She needed to tell Marcus Chen. He had a right to know, and perhaps together they could find a solution. She opened a secure communication channel to Earth. The conversation was difficult. Marcus appeared on the holographic display in his office on Earth, surprised to hear from her. Your Majesty, I did not expect to hear from you again. We need to talk, Ambassador Chen. In person. It is urgent. Marcus frowned, clearly confused. Is there a diplomatic crisis? You could say that, Zareth said grimly. How quickly can you return to the Valorian homeworld? A week perhaps. But Your Majesty, Can you tell me what this is about? Zareth looked at him directly through the display. Do you remember the night after our strategy game? Marcus's face changed. He understood. Yes. Then you understand why we must speak privately. Soon, after the communication ended, Zareth allowed herself a moment of weakness. She sat on her throne, head in her hands, feeling more uncertain than she had in years. A soft chime announced another visitor. Her chief advisor, General Thane, entered the throne room. He was old, scarred from countless battles, and fiercely loyal. Your Majesty, I bring troubling news. Lord Vex has been meeting with other noble houses. He is building support for something. A challenge, Zareth said. It was not a question, most likely. He has not made formal accusations yet, but there are rumors circulating. Whispers about. Thane hesitated. About impurity in the royal bloodline. Zareth's blood turned to ice. What kind of whispers? Nothing specific. But Your Majesty, if he knows something or even suspects something, he will use it. You know how Vex operates. Zareth nodded slowly. Vex was patient and cunning. He would gather evidence, build support, and then strike when she was most vulnerable. The pregnancy would give him exactly the weapon he needed. She had perhaps 2 months before the pregnancy became obvious. 2 months to decide what to do. 2 months to either find a solution or prepare for the fight of her life. Increase security around the medical wing, she ordered. No one enters without my direct permission. As you command, Your Majesty. After Thane left, Zareth stood and walked to the window. Outside, the twin moons of her homeworld rose over the capital city. Millions of Valorians lived in that city, all of them believing in the strength and purity of their queen. What would they think when they learned the truth? Marcus Chen would arrive in 1 week. Until then, Zareth had to appear normal, strong, in control. She had to be the warrior queen everyone expected, but inside, she felt something she had not experienced since childhood. Genuine fear. Marcus Chen's shuttle landed in the royal spaceport exactly 1 week later. He stepped out into the purple twilight of the Valorian homeworld, his diplomatic briefcase in hand and anxiety in his chest. He had spent the entire journey trying to imagine what Zareth wanted to discuss. None of his guesses were good. Had someone discovered what happened between them? Was she angry? Embarrassed? Did she want to ensure his silence? A royal guard met him at the landing pad. The massive Valorian warrior said nothing, simply gestured for Marcus to follow. They walked through the palace corridors in silence. Marcus noticed the guard was taking him to the private royal wing, not the diplomatic quarters. This was serious. Then, the guard stopped at a large door, knocked once, and left. Marcus stood alone in the corridor for a moment before the door opened. Zareth stood there, and Marcus was struck by how tired she looked. The fierce warrior queen from their first meeting seemed diminished somehow. Her scales had lost some of their shine, and there were shadows under her eyes. Ambassador Chen, she said formally, thank you for coming. Your Majesty, Marcus replied. Your message suggested urgency. Come in, we must talk privately. The room was her personal study, filled with books and star charts. Zareth closed the door carefully, and then stood there, silent, as if gathering courage. What is this about? Marcus asked gently. I am pregnant, Zareth said bluntly. The child is yours. Marcus's world tilted. He sat down heavily in the nearest chair, his legs suddenly unable to support him. That's impossible. We're different species. The biology doesn't work. That is what I thought as well, Zareth said. She moved to a desk and activated a data pad, handing it to him. My physicians say otherwise. Marcus read through the medical reports, his mind struggling to process the information. Genetic compatibility. Human DNA flexibility. A hybrid child growing inside an alien queen. How is this possible? He whispered. Human adaptability. Apparently, Zareth said, a bitter edge to her voice. Your species can do what no other in the galaxy can do. Create life with species that should be completely incompatible. Marcus looked up at her. What are you going to do? That depends on several factors, Zareth said. She began pacing, her movements sharp with tension. Valorian law is clear. Queens must bear only pure Valorian children with proven warriors. A hybrid child cannot inherit the throne. My enemies will use this to destroy me. Your enemies? My cousin, Lord Vex. He has wanted my throne for years. If he learns about this pregnancy, he will challenge my right to rule. And under our laws, he would be correct to do so. Marcus set down the datapad carefully. So you are asking me what? To deny being the father? No, Zareth said sharply. I am asking you to help me think. You are intelligent, Ambassador. You proved that when you beat me at the trial of minds. Help me find a solution to this impossible situation. Marcus stood and walked to the window. Outside, the royal gardens spread out in geometric perfection. Everything in Valorian culture was about order, strength, and tradition. A human disrupting that order was a threat. What do you want? He asked. Do you want this child? The question hung in the air. Zareth was silent for a long time. I do not know, she admitted finally. 3 weeks ago, I would have said this child is an impossibility and an embarrassment. But now, she placed a hand on her stomach. A surprisingly gentle gesture. Now I wonder if this child represents something important. Your species achieved the impossible. That is worth considering. You could hide it, Marcus said slowly, thinking through options. Claim, the child is fully Valorian. With medical technology, perhaps no one would know. Deception, Zareth said. It goes against everything I believe in. And what happens when the child grows and shows human characteristics? What then? You could blame me, Marcus offered. Say I took advantage of you somehow. Your people would believe you over a human. Zareth looked at him with something like respect. You would accept that shame? For a child you did not plan? If it protects you and the child? Yes, Marcus said. I may not be a warrior, Your Majesty, but I try to do what is right. They talked for hours after that. Marcus learned about the pressures Zareth faced every day, the weight of leading an empire, the constant challenges to her authority, the loneliness of a throne. Zareth learned about Marcus's own struggles being humanity's representative to species that saw his people as weak and primitive, fighting for respect with only his mind as a weapon. We are not so different, Zareth said quietly. Both of us trying to prove ourselves worthy to those who doubt us. Perhaps that is why this happened, Marcus said. The universe has a sense of humor. A small smile crossed Zareth's face. A cruel one, but their conversation was interrupted by an urgent knock on the door. General Thane entered, his expression grim. Your Majesty, Lord Vex has issued a formal challenge. He demands the trial of ascension. Zareth's face went pale. On what grounds? He claims there are questions about the purity of the royal bloodline. He is demanding proof of your worthiness to rule. Marcus looked between them, confused. What is the trial of ascension? A series of tests, Zareth explained, her voice tight. Combat, strategy, endurance, and leadership. It is usually performed when a new queen takes the throne. Vex is forcing me to prove myself again. Can you refuse? Marcus asked. If I refuse, I forfeit the throne, Zareth said. She looked at Thane. When? 3 days from now. The announcement will be made public tonight. The entire court will watch. After Thane left, Zareth sat down heavily. This is a disaster. The trials are physically demanding. My pregnancy is already affecting my strength. I felt dizzy yesterday during training. Then we need a new plan, Marcus said. He began pacing, his mind working through possibilities. You said humans think differently than Valorians. Maybe that is what we need now. A different way of thinking. What do you mean? Stop hiding the truth, Marcus said suddenly. Use it. Zareth stared at him. Are you insane? If I announce the pregnancy, I lose everything. Not if we reframe it, Marcus said, excitement building in his voice. Listen, Vex thinks your pregnancy is a weakness. He thinks a hybrid child makes you unworthy. But what if we show that it makes you stronger? How could it possibly make me stronger? Because it proves something important, Marcus explained. It proves that humanity is more valuable than anyone thought. Your people value strength, yes? Well, what is stronger, rigid traditions that never change, or the ability to adapt and grow? Zareth was quiet, considering his words. Think about it, Marcus continued. Humans achieved what should be impossible. We bridged a gap no other species could bridge. That is not weakness, that is potential. If you present the pregnancy as proof of human worth, as proof that you chose strength in a new form, it changes the entire situation. That is an enormous risk, Zareth said. Yes, Marcus agreed. But hiding is also a risk. And you said yourself deception goes against what you believe in. Zareth stood and walked to her weapons wall, looking at the blade she had carried into countless battles. If we do this, we do it together. You would need to stand with me publicly. I will, Marcus said without hesitation. You could be killed. My people do not react well to threats to tradition. I know. Zareth turned to face him fully. Why would you risk this? You did not ask for any of this. Marcus met her eyes. Because it is the right thing to do. And because maybe, just maybe, we can change how the galaxy sees both our species. Outside, the twin moons climbed higher into the night sky. In 3 days, everything would change. The Trial of Ascension arena was filled to capacity. Thousands of Valorians packed the viewing platforms, their scales gleaming in the morning light. Representatives from dozens of alien species occupied the diplomatic section, curious to see why a sitting queen was being challenged. Marcus stood in the royal box, his heart pounding. He wore simple human diplomatic clothes, dark blue with Earth's symbol on the shoulder. Next to the towering Valorians around him, he looked impossibly small and out of place. Below, on the arena floor, Queen Zareth stood in ceremonial combat armor. Across from her, Lord Vex wore matching armor, his scales a lighter purple than hers. His smile was confident, predatory. Citizens of the Valorian Empire, the trial master announced, his voice amplified across the arena. Lord Vex has challenged Queen Zareth's right to rule, citing concerns about bloodline purity. The Queen has accepted the Trial of Ascension. 4 tests will prove her worthiness: combat, strategy, endurance, and leadership. The crowd roared approval. This was entertainment and politics combined, their favorite combination. The first trial began immediately: combat. Zareth and Vex faced each other with traditional Valorian weapons, long staffs with bladed ends. The rules were simple. First to draw blood or force surrender wins. Vex attacked first, his movements fast and brutal. Zareth blocked and countered, but Marcus could see she was moving slower than usual. The pregnancy was affecting her balance and strength. She looks weak, someone muttered behind Marcus. The challenger will win easily, another voice agreed. Marcus clenched his fists, watching helplessly. Zareth blocked another strike, but Vex's blade caught her arm, drawing a thin line of purple blood. The crowd gasped. First blood. Vex had won the combat trial. Trial 1 goes to the challenger, the trial master announced. Zareth walked to the side of the arena, breathing heavily. Dr. Kess quickly bandaged her arm while she drank water. Marcus saw her hand trembling slightly. This was going wrong already. The second trial began after a brief rest period. Strategy. Both competitors were given a holographic battlefield with simulated troops. They had to plan and execute a military campaign against identical enemy forces. The winner was whoever achieved victory with fewer losses. This, at least, was not physical. Zareth's mind was still sharp. She studied the battlefield carefully, then began moving her troops. Vex attacked aggressively, using overwhelming force. It was the traditional Valorian approach: direct, powerful, unstoppable. Zareth used different tactics. She divided her forces, used terrain for advantage, and struck at supply lines. Her approach looked weaker at first, but gradually Vex's army began to falter. Without supplies and reinforcements, his aggressive attack collapsed. Zareth won with minimal casualties, Trial 2 goes to Queen Zareth, the trial master announced. The crowd was quieter now, uncertain. One trial each. Everything depended on the next two. The third trial was endurance. Both competitors had to stand in the center of the arena while subjected to increasingly difficult environmental conditions, extreme heat, cold, pressure, and sensory overload. Whoever collapsed first would lose. This was where Zareth's pregnancy became most dangerous. Marcus watched in growing horror as the trial began. Heat lamps blazed down. Freezing winds blasted from vents. The lighting flashed in disorienting patterns. Vex stood strong, his expression controlled. He had trained for this his entire life. Zareth was struggling. Sweat poured down her scales. Her breathing was labored. She swayed slightly, fighting to stay upright. "She is failing," someone said. "The queen is not fit to rule," another voice agreed. Marcus could not stand by anymore. He ran down from the royal box, ignoring the shocked gasps from the crowd. He jumped the barrier and ran onto the arena floor. "Stop the trial!" he shouted. The trial master looked shocked. "Who dares interrupt? I am Ambassador Marcus Chen of Earth," Marcus said loudly. "And I invoke ancient Valorian law. A queen's chosen consort may stand in her place if she is unable to continue." The arena exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in confusion and anger. The trial master consulted with legal advisors frantically. Lord Vex laughed. "A human? Standing in for the queen? This is absurd," but the trial master nodded slowly. "The law is ancient but clear. If Queen Zareth acknowledges this human as her chosen consort, he may continue the trials in her place." All eyes turned to Zareth. She looked at Marcus. Surprise, and something else in her expression. Then she straightened, despite her exhaustion. "Ambassador Chen speaks truth," she said clearly. "He is my chosen consort and the father of my child." The arena fell silent. The secret was out. "A human child?" Vex snarled. "This proves my point. She has polluted the royal bloodline with inferior genetics." "Inferior?" Marcus said, stepping forward. "Let me show you what human genetics can do." He walked to the center of the arena, taking Zareth's place in the endurance trial. The environmental systems reactivated. The heat hit Marcus like a physical blow. His human body was smaller, with less thermal mass than a Valorian. The heat should have overwhelmed him instantly, but Marcus had grown up in harsh conditions on Earth. He had trained in deserts and frozen mountains. He understood something the Valorians did not. Endurance was not about being stronger. It was about being smarter. He controlled his breathing, using meditation techniques to slow his heart rate. He did not fight the discomfort but accepted it, letting his mind float above the physical sensations. When the cold came, he tensed specific muscle groups to generate heat. When the lights flashed, he closed his eyes and relied on other senses. Minutes passed, then an hour. The crowd watched in disbelief as the small human outlasted their own warrior champion. Finally, Vex collapsed, exhausted. Marcus opened his eyes and walked calmly out of the test zone. "Trial 3 goes to Queen Zareth's consort," the trial master said, his voice filled with amazement. The crowd was buzzing now. Some Valorians looked angry. Others looked thoughtful. The impossible was happening before their eyes. "There is still the leadership trial," Vex said, climbing to his feet. His pride was wounded. "Let us see if a human can lead Valorian warriors." The fourth trial required both competitors to command a squad of actual warriors through a complex tactical scenario. The warriors were given basic instructions, but needed leadership to succeed. Success was measured by mission completion and warrior survival. Vex went first. He commanded his squad with traditional Valorian methods, direct orders, aggressive tactics, overwhelming force. They completed the mission but lost 3 warriors in the process. Then it was Marcus's turn. He faced a squad of massive Valorian warriors who clearly did not want to follow a tiny human. "Listen," Marcus said to them. "I know I am not Valorian. I know you think I am weak. But I am going to get all of you through this mission alive. Trust me." The warriors exchanged looks but said nothing. When the scenario began, Marcus used completely different tactics. He asked each warrior about their individual strengths. He positioned them based on their abilities. Not just rank. He used communication and coordination instead of just orders. When they encountered the enemy, Marcus did not charge forward. He used distraction, misdirection, and clever positioning. The warriors began to see his strategy and adapt. They started suggesting ideas, and Marcus listened. They completed the mission with 0 casualties. The arena erupted with noise. Some Valorians were cheering, others were shouting in anger. The trial was tied, 2 trials each. Lord Vex's face was twisted with rage. This proves nothing. Demand a final test, single combat between the human and me. The trial master looked uncertain. That is not traditional. I invoke my right as challenger, Vex roared. Marcus stepped forward before anyone could stop him. I accept. The arena fell silent. Every eye was on the small human standing before the massive Valorian warrior. Vex was 8 feet tall, covered in scales as strong as armor, with muscles built from a lifetime of combat training. Marcus was 5 feet 9 inches, with soft human skin and no natural weapons. It looked like suicide. Marcus. No, Zareth said, grabbing his arm. He will kill you. This is not a game. I know. Marcus said quietly. But if I refuse, we lose everything. Trust me. I have an idea. Before Zareth could argue further, Marcus walked to the center of the arena. Vex followed, a predatory smile on his face. Weapons were brought out, traditional Valorian combat staffs with bladed ends. This will be quick, Vex said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. The human will learn what real strength looks like. Marcus picked up his staff. It was heavy, designed for Valorian strength. He could barely lift it properly. The crowd murmured, sensing the mismatch. The trial master raised his hand. Combat begins. Now! Vex attacked immediately, his staff swinging in a deadly arc. Marcus barely dodged, rolling awkwardly to the side. The crowd laughed. This was embarrassing. Vex attacked again and again. Each time, Marcus dodged or blocked desperately. He was clearly outmatched. It was only a matter of time before Vex landed a killing blow, but something strange was happening. Marcus was not trying to win the fight. He was studying Vex's movements, learning his patterns, buying time. Stand and fight, Vex roared, frustrated. Why? Marcus called back, breathing hard. So you can prove you are stronger? Everyone already knows that. The statement confused Vex for a moment. Marcus used that moment to speak louder, addressing the entire arena. Look at us, Marcus shouted. A Valorian warrior and a human diplomat. Lord Vex is stronger, faster, better trained. He will win this fight. But does that prove he should rule? Vex swung again. Marcus blocked, the impact sending painful vibrations up his arms. Strength is important, Marcus continued, dodging another strike. But it is not everything. You Valorians measure worth by who wins battles. Humans measure worth by who survives challenges. He rolled away from another attack, breathing heavily now. Our child, mine and Queen Zareth's, will be both Valorian and human. The child will have your strength and our adaptability. Is that weakness? Or is that the future? The crowd was listening now, murmuring among themselves. Marcus had their attention, but Zareth saw what Marcus could not. She saw him tiring, saw Vex preparing a finishing strike. She ran onto the arena floor, stepping between them. Enough, she commanded, her voice carrying across the arena. Your Majesty, you cannot interfere. The trial master protested. I am not interfering, Zareth said. I am making a choice. If anyone fights for my honor, it should be me. Pregnancy or not, I am still queen. Marcus grabbed her arm gently. No, there is a better way. He turned back to Vex, lowering his weapon. You want to know the truth, Lord Vex? I cannot beat you in combat. You are a superior warrior in every way. But that is not the point. Then you surrender? Vex demanded. No, Marcus said. I am offering you a choice. You can kill me right now, prove your strength, and claim the throne. But what will you have proven? That tradition is more important than progress? That strength is more valuable than adaptability? He gestured to the crowd. The galaxy is changing. Humanity is here now. We are small, yes. Weak by your standards, yes. But we survived extinction events on our planet. We rebuilt civilizations after they fell. We learned to cooperate, instead of just conquer. And now, somehow, we achieved what no other species could. We created life with Valorians. Marcus's voice grew stronger. That is not an insult to your species. It is a gift. Our child will bridge two worlds. And if you reject that, if you cling to rigid tradition, you are not showing strength. You are showing fear. The arena was completely silent now. Every being present was listening. Vex stood frozen, his weapon raised but not striking. His face showed conflict, anger, pride, but also uncertainty. You speak of cooperation, Vex said slowly. But you know nothing of our ways, nothing of the burdens we carry. Then teach me, Marcus said. Teach humanity. We want to learn. We want to contribute to this galaxy, not conquer it. Is that so terrible? Zareth stepped forward, standing beside Marcus. My cousin, you have always been a warrior. You have served our empire with honor. But ask yourself, what kind of empire do you want to lead? One that never changes, or one that grows stronger by learning from others? She placed a hand on her stomach. This child is mine. It is also Marcus's. And yes, it breaks tradition. But sometimes traditions must evolve, or they become chains that hold us back. Vex looked at them both for a long moment. Then he looked at the crowd, seeing thousands of faces watching, waiting for his decision. Finally, he lowered his weapon. I came here to challenge weakness, Vex said slowly. But I see now that I was measuring the wrong kind of strength. He looked at Marcus. You survived trials no human should have survived. You commanded warriors who did not want to follow you and earned their respect. That is impressive. He turned to Zareth. And you, cousin, had the courage to reveal a truth that could cost you everything. That is also strength. Vex drove his staff into the ground and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect among Valorians. I withdraw my challenge. Queen Zareth's worthiness is proven. The arena erupted with noise. Some Valorians cheered, others shouted in anger or confusion. But the challenge was over. The trial master stepped forward, clearly shaken by the unexpected turn. The challenge is withdrawn. Queen Zareth retains her throne. The trials are concluded. In the days that followed, the galaxy buzzed with news of what had happened. Some species praised the decision, others criticized it, but everyone was talking about humanity in a new way. Dr. Kess approached Zareth and Marcus with additional news. Your Majesty, our research teams have made a discovery. The genetic compatibility between humans and Valorians is not random. Human DNA has properties we never understood. They may be compatible with dozens of species across the galaxy. What does that mean? Marcus asked. It means humanity may be the key to bridging gaps between species that have been isolated for millions of years. Dr. Kess explained. This is revolutionary. 6 months later, Zareth gave birth to a daughter. The child was beautiful, smaller than a pure Valorian, but with scales of deep purple marked with patterns no Valorian had ever seen. Her eyes were bright with intelligence, and she was strong and healthy. They named her Kyra, which meant unity in the ancient Valorian language. Marcus held his daughter carefully, still amazed that she existed. She is perfect. She is ours, Zareth corrected, smiling. Both of ours. Their relationship had grown beyond that first awkward night. They had become true partners, learning from each other, supporting each other, challenging each other to be better. Marcus still joked about having a partner who was 2 feet taller than him. Zareth still teased him about being the smallest person in most rooms. But beneath the humor was genuine affection and respect. The Valorian Empire began changing, slowly but surely. Trade agreements with Earth increased. Cultural exchanges began. Young Valorians started studying human history and philosophy. Fascinated by how such a small species had survived so much, Lord Vex became an unexpected ally. He began working with human military advisors, combining Valorian strength with human strategy. The results were impressive. One evening, Marcus stood in the royal gardens holding baby Kyra while Zareth met with advisors. The child looked up at him with curious eyes, one purple like her mother's, one brown like his. "You are going to change everything, little one," Marcus whispered. "You are proof that different does not mean incompatible. You are the bridge between worlds." Kyra made a small noise and grabbed his finger with surprising strength. Zareth emerged from her meeting and joined them, wrapping one arm around Marcus and touching their daughter's face gently with the other. "I was wrong about humans," she said quietly. "I called your species weak. I mocked the idea of partnership. I am glad you proved me wrong. I am glad you gave me the chance," Marcus replied. Above them, the twin moons rose over the Valorian capital. In the city below, millions of beings lived their lives, unaware that they were watching the beginning of a new era, an era where strength came in many forms, where different species could build something beautiful together, where rigid traditions gave way to possibilities no one had imagined, and at the center of it all was a child, half human, half Valorian, and completely unique. A symbol of hope for a galaxy, learning that unity was stronger than isolation. The future, it seemed, belonged to those brave enough to embrace change. The end. Part 2. Impossible biology. Rising tension. Zareth is pregnant, something that should be biologically impossible between species. Panicked and furious, Zareth demands answers from her scientists. Valorian biology requires genetic compatibility, a rigorous courtship ritual, and specific pheromone exchanges. Humans should lack all these requirements. Yet the medical scans don't lie. She carries a hybrid child. Her advisors warn this could destabilize her reign. Valorian law requires queens to mate only with proven warriors of noble bloodlines. Many will see this as weakness or scandal. Some rivals already whisper about challenging her throne. Meanwhile, Marcus has returned to Earth, unaware of the situation. Zareth debates telling him pride wars with practicality. She sends covert intelligence agents to investigate human biology, discovering that humans are adaptable in ways the galaxy hasn't fully understood. Their genetic flexibility is unprecedented. Zareth must decide. Hide the pregnancy and claim the child as pure Valorian, or contact Marcus and face the political consequences. Hook. A rival challenges her right to rule, citing rumors of impurity. Part 3. The human variable. Midpoint crisis. Zareth reluctantly contacts Marcus, who returns to the Valorian homeworld in shock. Marcus struggles to process fatherhood with an alien queen who once mocked his entire species. Their conversations are tense. She's imperious and defensive. He's overwhelmed but trying to do the right thing. Yet, as they're forced together, they begin understanding each other's perspectives. Marcus learns about the enormous pressure Zareth faces. Her people respect only strength, and showing vulnerability could cost her everything. She learns that human strength comes not from physical power but from adaptability, emotional resilience, and the ability to find solutions others overlook. The rivals' challenge escalates into a formal demand. Zareth must prove her worthiness through the trial of ascension, a series of tests that will expose her pregnancy to the entire court. If she fails or refuses, she forfeits her crown. Together, they devise a bold plan. Instead of hiding Marcus's involvement, they'll reframe it. They'll present the pregnancy as proof of humanity's hidden strength, a species so adaptable they can bridge the unbridgeable. Hook. The trial begins, and Zareth collapses during the first test. Part 4. Trial by fire. Climax. The pregnancy complications were anticipated. But now Marcus must think fast. He invokes an ancient Valorian law. A queen's consort may stand in her place if she's incapacitated. The court laughs. No human could survive Valorian trials. But Marcus isn't trying to match Valorian strength. He's changing the game. Each trial tests different attributes: combat prowess, strategic thinking, endurance, and leadership. Marcus fails the physical combat spectacularly, but uses guerrilla tactics and unconventional weapons to turn near defeat into stalemate. In the strategy test, he introduces game theory concepts that baffle Valorian linear thinking. For endurance, he employs meditation and psychological techniques that allow him to outlast competitors twice his size. The watching Valorians begin to see what Zareth saw. Humans don't play by expected rules. They adapt, improvise, and survive through creativity rather than raw power. The final test requires leading warriors into a simulated crisis. Marcus organizes them using human military doctrine, combined arms, flexible response, and valuing every individual's strengths. They achieve victory with 0 casualties, something Valorians rarely accomplish. The rival cannot deny Marcus passed the trials, though not as any Valorian would. Hook. The rival demands one final contest, single combat with Marcus. Part 5. A New Alliance. Resolution. Marcus faces the rival in combat, but Zareth rises from her sickbed to intervene. She declares that if anyone fights for her honor, it will be her pregnancy or not. But Marcus stops her, proposing a better solution. He challenges Valorian tradition itself. You measure strength by who wins fights. Humans measure strength by who survives. Our child will be both. He offers the rival a choice. Continue this destructive path, or recognize that the galaxy is changing. Humanity's addition to galactic civilization isn't a threat, it's an opportunity. Species that learn from each other grow stronger. Those that cling to rigid traditions become extinct. Zareth supports Marcus, adding her own perspective. I mocked humans once. I was wrong. True strength is adapting when the universe presents something new. The rival, impressed despite himself, withdraws his challenge. Not all Valorians accept this immediately, but enough do that Zareth's crown is secure. The court scientist reveals that the hybrid pregnancy succeeded because human genetic adaptability essentially unlocked dormant Valorian genetic sequences. Humans are more compatible with other species than anyone realized. Epilogue. 6 months later, Zareth gives birth to a healthy daughter who exhibits traits of both species. Marcus and Zareth have formed an unlikely but genuine partnership, both romantic and political. Humanity's status in the galaxy rises dramatically as other species recognize the potential of human adaptability. The child becomes a symbol of a new era, the adaptive age, where cooperation triumphs over rigid hierarchy. Marcus jokes that he's still getting used to having a partner who's 2 feet taller than him. Zareth responds that she's still getting used to being proven wrong. Their daughter gurgles happily, already showing the stubbornness of both species.